You've probably heard that good salespeople can sell anything. That if you're talented enough, it doesn't matter what the product is, you can make the sale. I'm here to tell you that's not just wrong, it's damaging advice that leads to burnout and to that fake enthusiasm that turns your prospect off before you even get a chance. I sold yearbooks. Yes, those books your kids get at the end of the year with their school pictures in them. For 15 years. During that time, there was this faction of reps that had a saying, which was IJAY. It stood for, It's Just a Yearbook. They would say those letters to each other when we were in meetings that got heated or when we were debating high-level go-to-market strategies. And it was just their way to basically say, hey, what we're doing is not that deep. It's just a yearbook. And something about hearing my colleagues use those letters, IJAY, really upset me, as if there was something more important we should be selling. And it made me think, how effective could these sales reps be if they truly believed it was just a yearbook? So today we're going to look at the idea that good salespeople can sell anything. And I'm going to tell you why I think that's simply not true. Today on Don't Just Sell. Most sales podcasts give you more tactics. This one proves you don't need them. I'm Rebecca Kilday, and this is Don't Just Sell, the podcast where your sales career gets easier when you quit selling like you've been trained and start selling like yourself. When I left that yearbook job, I was recruited by a magazine company to start a lifestyle magazine in my community. I remember the recruiter was energetic and excited to tell me all about the benefits of being a magazine owner. And he painted a really nice picture, but I knew that just selling advertising in a magazine wouldn't be enough for me. As he talked for about 10 minutes about how wonderful the opportunity was, he stopped and asked if I had any questions. I said yes, and I asked, what am I really selling here? It can't just be advertising space in a magazine. I knew in my heart I would never be able to sell something I didn't believe in. I needed to know more, and to his credit, the recruiter changed his tone. He told me about how small businesses across the country benefited from placement in the magazine. He told me about the camaraderie that could be built among advertisers, the idea of building a community inside a community. And that's what I needed to hear. That was something I could get behind and sell. And so I did. Here's the real problem with the idea that good salespeople can sell anything. If you don't truly believe in your product or service, your prospect won't either. It will show, no matter how talented of a salesperson you are. And it's going to damage you in 3 ways. It's going to undermine your credibility, it will lead you to burnout, and the worst is that it makes you look like every other sales rep. So I want to tell you about the most inspirational person at my yearbook company. She was this rep from New Jersey named Bonnie. Bonnie started with the yearbook company in 1981, which was, believe it or not, before I was even born. And at that time, most of our sales reps across the country were former high school and college athletes. That's where we would build relationships, or that's where the company would build relationships, because we also sold class rings. And so those college athletes had direct relationships with athletic directors and coaches, and that was how we got into a lot of those schools, especially in the Northeast, like New Jersey. Well, when Bonnie came on the scene, she was one of only 3 sales reps in the entire company, and she was the only dedicated yearbook rep that was a woman. So she knew she had to find her way to connect with these customers in a way that was different than the men did with their connections with all these coaches. So what she did, she realized how important the work was that the teachers in the yearbook classroom were doing and how they felt overwhelmed. It was a very niche project creating this yearbook. And they used it as an opportunity to teach graphic design and to teach journalism. And she wanted to be a really important resource for her customers. So she went to school, got a journalism degree while she was working this job at the yearbook company, and she became a nationally known journalism educator and speaker. And I'll go even beyond that. When I entered the business in the early 2000s, the buzzword in education was school climate and culture. So we had kind of gotten the journalism thing figured out and how we could be an educational partner. But now schools were struggling with things like absenteeism and low confidence in their students. And what could we do as yearbook sales reps to help guide the climate and culture of a school? And Bonnie, again, this was now 25 years into her career, she reinvented herself again and really dove into the psychology of the teenage mind and what teenagers really needed from the adults in their lives. And again, she reinvented the way that our role was in those schools. We were now culture leaders and resources for teachers and administrators who needed programs that helped their students stay in school and helped their students stay connected to the culture that was being built in the building. And now Bonnie is in her 44th year at the yearbook company. She has more lifetime sales than any woman in the entire company ever, and she is in the top 10 of men. So I think about how important it was for her to find a connection to this product of a yearbook and how she could have just phoned it in. She could have just done her job. But I would argue that her deep connection to the product is what made her job last as long as it has, and it has what makes her customers as attached to her as they are. So what happens if you sell something that you don't feel strongly about? I'm going to demonstrate how you have the capacity to connect with almost anything, but you have to allow yourself to be vulnerable. So before I share the shift that made all the difference for me, if you're recognizing that your team has an IJAY mentality, where people are just going through the motions without connecting to what you're actually selling, this is exactly the kind of cultural shift I help sales teams make. I've created an email template you can send to your manager to start this conversation, and you can find it in the show notes. I like to do an illustration with my sales training clients that I want to try with you now. So there's this theory that humans have the capacity for empathy, and so that means they can connect with almost anything, even inanimate objects, as long as you give those inanimate objects a name and a purpose. So let's try out the theory with these pencils. I have a jar full of regular number 2 pencils on my table. I'll pick one at random. It's not special. There are plenty of others like it. And I break it. You probably didn't feel much of anything. Now, I'm going to choose another pencil. This one is named Harris. I'm holding Harris, and these pencils, the other pencils in the jar, are his family. Harris is the favorite pencil of a kindergartner named Lucy, who just learned to write her name. Lucy is so excited to be able to write her name, and she refuses to use any other pencil but Harris. So Harris is on his way to school right now so he can be with Lucy to help her write her name. Did that feel different? Did you just feel empathy for a pencil? Then you can use this same exercise to connect yourself deeper to whatever your product is. So you can do that by doing 2 things. What is your product's purpose? Not its function, its purpose. In our example, the pencil named Harris is a writing instrument. That's his function. But helping Lucy have the confidence to write her name, That's his purpose. And number 2, in what tangible ways does your product make a difference in the lives of its users? What stories can you tell about a client of yours who has experienced positive change because of using your product? I know you have these stories. Think about them and reconnect with them. These are the stories that you should be sharing with your prospects. At the end of the day, we get so bogged down and distracted in the day-to-day busyness of our sales jobs that every now and then it's important to step back and connect to why we sell what we sell in the first place. I don't believe it's not that deep. I think it is. And I think the best sales professionals know they wouldn't want to sell just anything. They want to sell what they sell, because they believe in it enough to build a career around the difference it makes in the lives of their customers. And that's it. That's the shift from being someone who just sells to someone who sells inspired.